Now, one of the things I've learned in working on making all these camera mounts, and it's a significant thing, in the very beginning I started using all 1/8 inch aluminum to make these custom mounts and various things, but the thing you're always dealing with is resonant vibration. And what I did here, I wanted to show some of the things that really didn't, they worked, they made it better but didn't make it perfect. I put a rubber bushing under there to try to stiffen that up. But what I did today is I went to Lowe's and bought another piece of 1/4 inch, and I'm going to take this all apart and just make what was an 1/8 inch bracket at a 1/4 inch to make this a lot stiffer. Now, the reason I'm doing this is the mounts back here, they're relatively stiff. They're short in height. If I were to make this come up high, it turns into a diving board. Short is better than long. So what I'm going to try to do, and because I have time to do this today, one by one, and I think the bike, the green bike, suffers from this too. In fact, let me think while I'm going to be cutting aluminum and polishing. This one probably would benefit also. I put a rubber bushing in here to try to dampen the vibration, and what will happen at high RPM, it'll resonate, and as soon as you back off the gas, it goes away. So I know I've got to deal with this. This is something I'm just going to try to figure a different way of doing this. I don't know exactly how right now, but that's the fun of doing this. And by the way, this is the only one that I haven't had to redo yet, the one that's on the back of the R1. That one worked out great. The one on here, there's almost no vibration until you're really, I'd say right at maximum RPM. But the reason is this one is short. It's not long. So, and I haven't had a chance to make up for the Kawasaki, make some real mounts. But again, I have a couple hours today before our grandson gets here. And it's a rainy, cloudy day. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is take this little bracket off and just make a copy of it in thicker aluminum. And again, I buy the aluminum in Lowe's. It's not high-tech stuff. It's not aircraft grade or anything. It's just ordinary. And it's ordinary aluminum. It's relatively easy to drill, but just the fact that it's twice as thick will make it a lot less vibration prone. I hope. Now, when I took all the measurements, it looks like what I'm going to be able to do is actually just make a little spacer instead of what I thought I was going to have to do here. See, I had this sticking out. I just need to check that I've got the right clearance too, that I'm not hitting the windshield. But a lot of times, and this is what happens, I take the old mount off, and it's a simple thing in engineering. You always try to use as few parts as possible. So I might be able to eliminate this by just making a spacer or finding a spacer and back that master cylinder out, because what that's going to do is put it on a much, much shorter diving board, for lack of a better word, and it should result in us having just a lot better dampening from the thing we're trying to avoid here, is having a long moment arm that at some RPM starts vibrating. And what will happen, at 1,000 RPM, it'll sit 2,000, 3,000, and at 4,000 it starts to buzz. Let's just make numbers up. And then at 7,000 it goes away. Well, that's resonant vibration. So I'm going to try to engineer this up. And if I can get away with that, I just need to. And of course I have plenty of screws and plenty of Loctite, so I can cut a screw the length I need. This might be a lot simpler than what I originally thought. But again, I always have the old one I can always go back to. But see, what happens is too, you have to, in my case, it's a simple thing. I watch all these YouTube videos on a big screen, high-def 65-inch television. And on that, I can see vibration that if you looked at it on a little iPad or, God forbid, on a telephone, you can't see anything. But on a big screen TV, I like to see it be as vibration-proof as possible. And this is funny. Mark Morgan, when he looked at it, I think he was at my house, or maybe he just made the comment. He said he likes the vibration. He likes the fact that it makes it look like it's going, you know, like faster than it is or something, but it doesn't matter. I just like to get rid of the vibration, and making a shorter moment arm, a shorter diving board, for lack of a better word, is always to your advantage. Now, after looking at a lot of solutions to this, I found in my Never Throw the Parts Away junk box two bushings, one a little bit longer, one a little bit smaller, that may or may not allow me. See, you can make this mount up, but you really have to run a test. You have to go shoot some video, come home, and see if it's gotten better or worse than the original one. Now, because I have several of these, in fact I have even shorter ones, I don't even have to machine anything up today on a lathe. In fact, I have another one. So I can, and then another trick that I always use whenever I make my own parts, and I love to make my own parts, of course, whenever I buy these bolts, I buy them from Bolt Depot. Very, very inexpensive, good quality, and they polish up beautifully. They're stainless steel. The only thing that's a problem is I like to always order a bunch of really long bolts. And you notice this is threaded right to the end. So I can then, if I don't have the exact length bolt I need, I can just go make it. It's not a problem. But you don't want to buy bolts like this where you can't shorten them. So just one little tip, if you deal with Bolt Depot, they are a good place. And I prefer the stainless steel bolts for the fact that I can polish them up. And for making little creative projects like this, you just need a bunch of, I call it junk, but you need a bunch of stuff to experiment with. But we're going to come up with something today. I'm feeling that that sense of this is going to be an improvement over what we have. Now, as what always happens with these projects, I decided rather than pursue this part on the master cylinder, I would go to the other side. A lot of reasons. The other one is more rigidly mounted. The master cylinder is rubber mounted, so that's one thing. And second of all, I have enough of this material, I could just make another bracket. So I'll get to see if the resonance is the same on both sides. Sometime it is, sometime it isn't. But again, I can't use this bracket. I just use this for kind of a pattern, only because what's going to happen is, if I make this out of 1/8 inch, I'm kind of jury rigging it. So I may as well take the time today, make this up out of the 1/4 inch material, or the thicker material. I'm not sure if it's 1/4 inch, maybe it's 3/16. But that's the thicker the material, it's just going to change the resonance range. I hope it gets it out of that range where. Now the reason I know this is going in the right direction is if I mount the camera to my head, then you have other problems. The camera is moving constantly like that, and it's constantly refocusing. Where if it's mounted to the motorcycle solid, you get that real nice crystal clear on a high-def television. So it seems like this would all be very simple. It's not really as simple as you think it is. Well, at least I haven't found it to be simple. Let me make that bracket up. Now, it's always easier to drill the holes before you bend this. And this material is really a little rough to bend sometimes, but what I want to do, and I'm going to do it off camera here, I'm going to put some Gorilla Tape over this just to keep the material from scarring, because I want to polish this when I'm done. Now, after making up a couple of brackets, I wanted to make something that was totally adjustable. Obviously, I have limitations on this. And what I was trying to do, no matter what I do with this is really not a solid mount. Now this, because it's all heavier material, is a lot stiffer. You can move the whole bike by it, in fact. I don't know if that's going to be any better until I shoot some footage. But as I look through, it's going to just do what I want it to do, is capture a little bit of the windshield. And really, the only way you know if today is going to be of any value is you basically have to go out and shoot video and then compare it. And if it gets better, if it gets worse, sometimes it stays the same. But that's the challenge. And the challenge is always with all of these things. If you don't enjoy this, well, there's no point doing it. You can always just hook the thing to your helmet and live with the fact the camera's moving around and you're looking at the ground and everything. But if you take the time to get this right, and I don't like those suction cups. I've had those release in flight twice. Good thing I had string on them too. But this, I don't know if being able to adjust it back and forth I can swivel this, I can bring it out over my arm. Well, and I've always got to worry that it's got to clear the windshield when I turn. But one of the things for sure, it gives me a lot more choices. And I can always go back. I have the original mount for that side. But that side, it's just a problem. If this isn't any better, then we're just going to make another one. And we're going to be relentless about this. And we're going to share the information. So if you've enjoyed this, if you enjoy shooting footage, if you enjoy just watching it, all I can say is what we say at the end of every video. Thanks for watching. And this is the mount that I came up with. It's hard point mounted. The only problem is I do think in the future I'm going to buy some aluminum. It's a little bit thicker. I'm just very concerned about the vibration. I guess it would be less. Anyway, we got several mounts to try. Today will be our first test of some of the new camera mounts we made. We always have the one on the helmet, of course, but today we have a rear-mounted camera and a front-mounted camera at the same time. So this might be a very interesting day. You never know. Every day is an adventure. And if you know where you're going, really not much of an adventure.